Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to another edition of Freedom Friday. Good morning. Come on in, come on in, come on in, and let's get into it today. But you all know the drill. Come on in, let's share, let's tag somebody today in this episode of Freedom Friday. This is going to be monumental. This is going to be very enlightening for where we're going and where we see ourselves currently. My glass is a little crooked. So come on in. I believe today we're going to really be blessed by this Freedom Friday experience because I believe that many times as we are preparing to come live, the lesson or the topic speaks to us. So I need for you to invite, share, tag someone right now. Let them know that Dr. E is live for another edition of Freedom Friday. We are here for the edition today. Are you growing outwardly? Are you growing outwardly? I'm 15 minutes early today on this Friday because I got a busy Friday and I got to get out of here early. So instead of 7:30, I came on at 7:15. So all of my faithful listeners and viewers, I need for you to help me and be my electronic secretary this morning. I need for you to share, tag someone this morning, let them know that we're live. But are you growing outwardly? For a moment of transparency, I want to share this quick thing with you. Yesterday, I went to go see my neurologist. And for many of you know, I am a stroke survivor. And so I went to go see my neurologist yesterday. And so I have been getting Botox shots in my head, my neck and shoulders for maybe 3 years now, for what I have now, which is called chronic migraines. And so yesterday, as she and I were talking, I asked her, she said to me, she said, Erica, I noticed a significant change and drop in the number of migraines that you've had this time out of all the years that we've been getting the Botox shots. She said, what was differently this time than all the other times? And I said to her, and listen, if you don't like needles, then don't get Botox. But if you have the pain for migraines, I'm telling you, you're going to, so they get you around your front of your temple, in the back of your skull, your neck. It's a whole bunch of areas, but it's done in about 15 minutes. You feel a little pinch, but I said to her, it's where you place the needles and the position of the needle, I think was impactful. She said, what do you mean? I said, you went further down my neck and further down my back to get into those muscles so that it can kind of break up the tension, because it starts here and works its way up. So I can feel the needle going in. I can feel the fluid going through my skull. I can feel it in my shoulders and back. And so going through that process, I really didn't dawn on me till last night that I was growing inwardly, but now I see the manifestation of it outwardly. All because I stayed the course with the process of the treatment of the migraines. Sometimes when we're growing outwardly, there's a pain that we have to go through inwardly that will manifest itself outwardly. But if you stay the course, you'll see the result of it. I'm speaking good this morning, but I'm speaking better than y'all comment in the section. But I want you to know that your experiences that you go through outwardly, do not discount them because they're painful. If you stay with the process, you will reap the benefit of the outward experience. So we're continuing in our book this month for the April, Celebration of Discipline. We're continuing our book by Chad Foster, Celebration of Discipline. And I love this book. It's the path to spiritual growth. This month we're talking about growth. Good morning, Stacy. So one of the things that I often think about, I often observe, especially for those that's grown up in church. And you see people that come to church every week, and you often ask yourself the question, are they growing? I can't see growth. Growth sometimes in its early infancy stages, you can't see it. But the more you stay with the process, you begin to see growth. Growth doesn't happen overnight. It just doesn't. So for those of you all that say growth, I woke up and things just changed. No, there was something that they were doing ahead of time to see growth. As I said, I've been getting Botox shots for migraines for about 4 years now. This is the first time in 4 years that I have lessened the number that I've been getting from a number of things that's been happening in my body. But it's because I told her the position of the migraines, what I've been putting in my body, and what I have been doing. Listen to what I said, what I have been doing to ensure that I don't have as many. So remember, growth doesn't happen by osmosis. We don't click our heels. We don't do 2 snaps in the air. You've got to do something for growth to take place in your life. Growth has to happen. If you want it to happen, you've got to do something. So today we're talking about growth in 4 areas: simplicity, solitude, service, and submission. I'll say that again. Simplicity, solitude, submission, and service. So let's get right into it. Simplicity. Simplicity is freedom from the opposite of duplicity. Duplicity is bondage. Simplicity brings joy and balance. I think sometimes we overcomplicate the simple things. We really do. We overcomplicate the simple things. We were at a church last week doing outreach, and I asked one of our elders at the church, I said, what's the denomination of the church? And she said, Christ Wesleyan. I said, okay, that's the name of the church. What's the denomination? She kept repeating it. About the 3rd or 4th time I got it, I busted out laughing. So I looked at the church van. I said, oh, Christ Wesleyan. I was overcomplicating. She kept repeating it to me, but it didn't just kick in at the beginning. God made man simple. Man's complex problems are his own devising. That's Ecclesiastes 7:30. Let me say that again. God made man simple. He created man out of the dust of the earth. He created us really simple. He formed us and shaped us. But man's complex problems are his own devising. We make things that are simple complex. Theologian Kierkegaard, he captured simplicity in the nucleus of his profound book, Purity of Heart, by saying this. He suggests a deliberate and resolute act of the will emphasizes choice and intentionality towards your spiritual growth. The one thing that he suggests is that we must be deliberate, and it must be a resolute act emphasizing choice and intentionality toward our own spiritual growth. You've got to be intentional if you want to grow. One thing about this, weight doesn't just fall off. You can't just wake up in the morning and say, I don't want to be fat anymore. No, you got to do something. You got to stop eating. You got to exercise. A magic pill ain't going to do it all by itself. Now, it can do some things. But if you're not disciplined enough, the way to come back, and it'll come back more than what you took off. So you've got to be disciplined in what you do. Remember, the book is Celebration of Discipline. I want us to be able to celebrate our wins. We celebrate so many times our losses, but I want us to be able to celebrate when we win. We can win in this thing of spiritual growth, but you got to do something. You got to put some work in with it. Number 2, solitude. I love this. The poet T.S. Eliot, he analyzes our culture and he writes this. He says, where shall the word be found? where will it resound? Not here. There is not enough silence. Let me say that again. Where shall the word be found? Where will it resound? He said, not here. There is not enough silence. Silence is something that I think a lot of people struggle with. You know why we struggle with silence? Because of trauma, because we don't want to hear our own thoughts, and because of fear. Solitude is a more of a state of a mind and a heart. It's more of a state of mind of the heart. It's a place in your mind. It's a place in your heart. Some of you may be thinking, well, solitude is where I got to go and get separate and away from other people. That is one part of it. But you can be in a crowd and be in solitude. We cultivate an inner solitude and silence that sets us free, listen to this, from loneliness and fear. Solitude is inner fulfillment. Let me say that again. Solitude is inner fulfillment. We don't fear being alone, for we know that we are not alone. A lot of people that struggle mentally with mental health challenges, they struggle with the fear that nobody is there with them. And the enemy plays on that thought that I'm all alone, that nobody hears me, nobody is here with me, nobody cares about me. But it's in the solitude place, listen to this, that Jesus found his peace. I made a post the other day, and I said in that post that Jesus never prayed with his disciples. And it's the absolute truth. If you notice in the word that Jesus always went off by himself to pray. He always found a place of solitude. When he was in the garden, right before he was getting to approach his death, he asked the disciples, can you not pray with me for 1 hour? Now notice he went off to pray. He came back to where they were and said, I'm getting to go through the greatest trial of my life. And I need people that can hold me up, that's going to pray through with me. But he understood his assignment. Sometimes you got to get away to pray. It might have been in the 90s, I think. It might have been in the 90s or late 90s, early 2000s. A friend of mine said to me, she said, Erica, once or twice a year, I go to a hotel, to a place of solitude, and I go there just to pray, just to get away. And I said, wow, that's amazing. Never thought about that. So I adopted that same thing. So at least once a year, one of my places of peace is the mountains. So one of my places I go to in Asheville is the Grove Park Inn Resort. It's a place of solitude for me. I can go there and get away from all cares, all everything, and just find myself peaceful. Yeah, there's people there, but I can just find peace with myself. You need to be able to get away by yourself. I know some of y'all can't vacation by yourself, but let me tell you something. One of the greatest peace and one of the greatest places of victory you will find is when you can get away and regroup and find yourself. It's about finding peace. Submission. Number 3, submission. I know some of y'all probably get ready to turn me off and say, but you know, I got to be submitted. Absolutely. But I'm not talking about submission as many of you know submission. You know, I got to be submitted to my spouse. But I want to come from a different spin that I think Dr. Foster said in his book that I think is very freeing. Submission is free to value other people. It is not control. Let me say it again. Submission is free to value other people. It is not to control. We love people when we are, let me rephrase this. We love people when we don't have to submit to them. But we can love them even more when we love what people do and it doesn't affect us in return. See, I can be submitted to what you're doing or saying and not necessarily have to go in the same route you're going. See, I'm going to tell you where we get hung up on this word submission. We get hung up because we show love and we want that same love back in return from the person that we gave it to. But let me give you a little caveat. For God so loved the world that he gave. He submitted himself to giving us love when we didn't even deserve it. I can imagine that he loved us and died for a people who didn't even deserve his love. But he submitted himself to dying for us. He loved us even when he knew that we were going to turn our backs on him. He loved us even when he knew we were going to walk away from us. He loved us even when he knew that we were going to walk out on him. You know, God can be mad at us because we walked out on him. We were part-time lovers. And some of us even divorced God. We served him papers and said, this is over. I tried it and this ain't working. So I decided that me and you this is not going to work. So God, we gave him the do symbol and said, peace, I'm out. But God never walked out on us. He never gave up on loving us when we didn't love ourselves. Submission sets you free from the opinions of other people, especially when they don't reciprocate the same olive branch you gave them. You can give people grace even when they don't give you grace in return. My motto is this. I've motto, everybody, my friends that know me. Love is what love does. Whenever you love somebody, you don't do it to get something in return. Love is an action word. Love is because love does. Love is what love does. You do it because you love them, not because you want something in return. Now, granted, we want love back. Don't get it wrong. We want to be loved back. We want to feel love. We want that same love back. But if the person that you show love to doesn't give it back, doesn't mean that you're not loved. It just means they're not the person that's going to give you the love that you need. And I want us to understand that God is trying to get us in a place that outwardly he needs us to show love. He needs for us to be love. And he needs for us to show love even when it hurts. I know it's a hard one to digest this morning. Even when it hurts, God wants us to show love. Now, I'm going to be transparent with you. I don't want to show love to somebody that's did something to me. That's the hardest thing to do. But I have learned it's not about me. I've got to love people even when they have done me wrong. God knows people have done me wrong. But I have to love them. I'm growing. I'm working in that area. I ain't there yet all the way. Let's be clear. This is Freedom Friday. We got to get free. I don't want to lie to y'all and say, oh, yeah, I love everybody and everybody that comes my way. No, I'm not there yet. Pray for me. I ain't there yet. And the last one is service. Bernard Claver stated this: learn the lesson that if you are to do the work of a prophet, what you need is a scepter, but not a hoe. Whenever you're going to do work, you got to take some tools with you. Whenever you're trying to do something, service is about not just showing up to be the one in charge. He said in this lesson, if you are to do the work of a prophet, what you need is a scepter, but not a hoe. Think about that. But I'm going to read this paragraph from the book, and we're going to end this up. When Jesus gathered his disciples for the Last Supper, they were having trouble deciding who was the greatest. Listen to this. This was no new issue for them. And an argument arose among them as to which of them was the greatest. This is Luke 9:46. Whenever there is trouble, who is the greatest? There is trouble, who is the least. Let me say that again. Whenever there is trouble, who is the greatest? There's also trouble of who is the least. This is the crux of the matter for what is for us. Most of us know we will never be the greatest. Just don't let us be the least. That's service. He said, let the greatest among you first be a servant. If you're going to grow, you got to serve. Don't wait to be served. Nothing irks me more than anything. Nothing irks me more than anything. You see, those in ministry, pastors, leaders, you wait to be served and you never serve anybody. That's a turnoff for me. I won't even return back to your church. If I don't see you serving, I have a problem with that. Because contrary to popular opinion, your pastor, your apostle, your bishop, whoever he or she may be, we are all sheep. God just called them to be the pastor of the flock. But your pastor is still a sheep. And we all must serve. It's about service. So if you take nothing away from what I said today, we need to grow outwardly through simplicity, through solitude, through submission, and through service. God so loved the world that he gave. What are you willing to give to grow outwardly? Just a question. What are you willing to do for someone else to free yourself? What's the song? Free yourself and the rest will follow. If you free yourself from the opinions of other people, if you free yourself from looking at why do I have to be submitted, if you free yourself from the act of let me just serve, not to be served, I promise you, you'll find a peace that you never had. You'll find joy that you thought you lost. And you realize you're in the right place at the right time for God to work a miracle in your life. I'm telling you, I pray that today's session was freeing. I pray today that you got something from this lesson. I need for you to tag this for somebody. Share this with somebody today that's struggling with growing outwardly. They're struggling with the opinion of other people. You don't need the opinion of other people for you to grow. You don't. Growth starts with a made-up mindset that today I'm going to grow. And it starts with me. Not with other people, but it starts with you. I pray today that I've said something enlightening that you can grow from, that you can take this and share with someone today throughout the weekend. Because more than anything, I want us to grow on this platform. I want us to be able to see each other grow. And I want you to be able to tell me, look, Doc, I put into practice the things that you've been teaching us, and I'm growing. That more than anything is going to help me know that I'm in the right vein to see that you're growing. You know, my motto, if no one's told you today, let me be the first to tell you I love you, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. Live life and live life on purpose. Have an amazing Friday, and don't let anybody steal your peace, because your peace and your joy, the world didn't give it, and the world can't take it away. Have an amazing day.